Are you a U of T student? Yes. Is your name Alex Huang? No. Then you're probably broke. But that's okay, because, ladies and gentlemen, today's guest, Tejas Trikha, has come to save you and your wallet with the Coubon app. The Coubon app is a must-have for any U of T student. The entire purpose of this app is to save you money at your favorite restaurants in Toronto. There's no catch. It's beautiful because we need to be saving money this Christmas season. How are you going to afford to buy your bald uncle a gift if your fat ass is going out to restaurants without amazing discounts? So the story of how this app came about is absolutely incredible, and you're going to hear it today. Tejas is from India and the UAE, and when he got to Canada, he realized how difficult it was to just go and eat out, how expensive it got after tip, tax, all the inflation that's going on. It's ridiculous. So he decided to create an entire app and fix the problem for all students, making it a lot more affordable to go out and enjoy time in Toronto. Fun fact, Toronto is the fourth biggest city in North America. Fourth highest population. I just figured this out a couple weeks ago. Mexico City, LA, and New York are the top three. I believe that most people's main regret once they graduate from U of T will be not having explored the city more, because it is a great city. Worldwide, this is an amazing city to be able to live in. It's a privilege to live here, and I would hate for people to not have taken full advantage of the experience that you could have touring around. And Coubon is a great Kickstarter for that, because I'm checking the app here and I'm discovering restaurants I've never even heard of, places to go out. It's an absolute no-brainer. Tejas, great guy, hard work ethic. You're going to want to hear his story today. Enjoy the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the VoV podcast, Voices of Vic. Today, I am here with third-year Rotman student, Tejas Trikha. He's also the founder of the Coubon app. We're going to get into it. But first, Tejas, thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Carter. I've been following your podcast, and they're quite insightful, so pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We're going to get into the business, obviously, as we were talking about off camera. But first, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your story, how you got to U of T. You're from India. You're from Delhi.
Yes.
But you lived a long time in Dubai.
Yes.
So kind of walk me through that. How did you end up at U of T?
Perfect. So I'd like to say I'm a third culture child. I've grown up sort of my first 9 years of my life in Delhi. So I have strong Indian roots, as you can probably tell from my accent.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Dubai, where I stayed the rest 9 years of my life before coming to UFT when I was 18. All of them have been great experiences. I think talking first about Dubai, the fact that we are privileged to grow up in a multicultural society, similar to that of Toronto, means that we often can understand different cultures better than people who have just grown up sort of in one country, be it India, China, or any other country.
Yeah.
And that's been a boon which I've seen working for me, coming to Toronto, interacting with different people, both in business and personal.
Absolutely. That's huge. Yeah. Dubai, the image, at least for me, that I have of Dubai is this luxury, very rich, I guess, city in the world. It seems like, back then, maybe 30 years ago, the big cities were New York, LA, London, but those cities now seem to be kind of going downhill. There's increased crime, the poverty is going up, whereas now you see these luxurious places like Dubai in the Middle East where a lot of people are gravitating towards. Miami now in Florida seems to be the next big city in the U.S. But was that the experience for you? Because obviously you're not there right now, but as you were growing up, was it the same city that it is today?
100%. So when I moved there full time, the Dubai Mall and all of the major attractions were already there and fully established.
Yep.
It has come a long way, particularly during COVID. I think the government managed it very well, and it's definitely the city of the future. Having said that, I feel one shouldn't be as harsh to, cities like New York or London. They have just gone through that development cycle. With any city, as it grows in population, one will see higher crimes. talking about Dubai, it's still very safe, one of the safest in the world. But compared to say 10 years ago, it may not be as safe, relatively speaking.
Right.
So that's always the case. But yes, it's definitely where the future is, and I do look forward to doing some venture in either Dubai or India as well, a booming economy, in the next few years.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Okay, so what's your start in business been like so far? How did you get interested? You know, most people might want to come to university to study something like, well, I'm doing economics or life science to be a doctor or to be a lawyer. For you, you decided to do ramen commerce. What piqued your interest? Because I don't say it as much anymore, but definitely last year I would be kind of a Rotman wannabe, you know, because I consider myself a bit entrepreneurial. So I'm like, I'm missing out. I'm studying economics. I should be here with the business guys. But for you, you were able to get in. You kind of knew that, I would think, coming out of high school that you wanted to go into business. Is that right?
Actually, no. So in high school, in a large part of my high school life, I was hell-bent on doing law.
Okay.
And law often has this thing that you must study it in the jurisdiction you want to practice. At the time, I thought I'd go to India, study law, perhaps later down the line, maybe enter politics. That was kind of the trajectory. And I sat for the LSATs. You can enter law straight after after school in India. So I sat for the exam. I topped the exam. I got into the college I wanted to go to.
Nice.
But then I had an opportunity to go and visit the location, and I found that, okay, perhaps, you know, my idealistic vision of what I wanted may not be here. Just coming from Dubai, you know, the facilities, the kind of life you're used to, you know, it was perhaps not aligned there. And so my mom was also in favor of me going abroad just to get more exposure, and then, you know, taking a call where I want to settle down. So UFT happened. I, in fact, hadn't applied anywhere else in North America. This was the only university, only course I applied to, just because I didn't want to go so far from home. But when this happened, when I came here, I was like, okay, now I'm here. I'm far from home. You know, a lot of effort has gone into me coming here. Let's make the most of it. I don't want to graduate as just another student who gets dean's list or who does well academically. I want to do more.
100%.
And so that's where, you know, I started thinking, what can we do? Ideation, and then we got Coubon.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. I respect that a ton, because there's something about, if everyone has something that people claim is valuable, it's not really valuable.
Yeah.
This is the problem that I've had with post-secondary education. It's like, you go to U of T and I just look around and I'm like, okay, there are thousands of us and thousands more every single year who are graduating from U of T. I can't imagine that this is something that's that scarce. Yeah. And if it's not scarce, it's not valuable. 100%. Whereas, you know, gaining experience as the founder of a startup, not a lot of people are doing that, at least also as students. You have to diversify. You have to become unique to a point where you can do a lot of things that a lot of people do, which still would make you unique. So if you're a U of T student, okay, a lot of people are U of T students. If you're a startup founder, okay, there are a lot of people who are startup founders. But if you're a startup founder and a U of T student, you see the Venn diagram, there's not that many people that can do both. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I respect about what you're doing here. You have a team. You're the founder. Yes. It's not just you, though. How 100%. Did you meet the 4 other guys that you're working on this with? Is there 4 other guys?
There are actually many more. So we have a team of, I think, 10 to 12 people now. But we have a few key leaders. It's been a journey. I mean, talking you through my journey, when I started the ideation process, I saw how expensive food was. You know, as a foodie myself and being friends with so many people who love, you know, to go out, we saw how expensive everything was. Yep. You know, you pay a high fee, over that you pay tip, over that you pay tax. It ends up, you know, you can't get a meal under 25. And I'm privileged that my parents are able to, you know, fund me, and, you know, there's no monetary scarcity in that sort. But I'm also aware of so many other international students and domestic students who may not have the, you know, the backing that perhaps I do. And how much suffering is going into that. When I say suffering, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, oh, I'm not getting food to eat. But part of the university life is to go out with friends, make those memories. And so 100%. Many people weren't able to make that. At the same time, restaurant owners, so many small restaurant owners, immigrant families, closing shop or going in losses. Why? Because rents are so high, electricity is so high, raw materials are so high, but then there's no one coming in. Restaurants have 65% vacancy rate today.
Wow.
And that's a lot. And, they still have to pay rent, electricity, back-end staff. So I knew something had to be done. In terms of how I got my team, the first person, I talked to was Rick, who is our chief technology officer. I like to call him my technical co-founder. And I just pitched the idea to him. At the time, there was a few other people who were with me who, since then decided to leave. But when I talked to Rick, I could see that there was that dedication there.
100%.
And when he told me that he was going to join, he said, I'll join on one condition and one condition alone. You have to give me a promise that no matter what, you won't give up.
Yeah.
And to this day, I, carry that promise with me. After that, we got Ali on board. He actually joined as a sales intern to get restaurants. He got our first restaurant in, I think, February, March of last year.
Okay.
And it was a small restaurant in Kensington. I told him that I'd pay him $50. So from the little bit of savings we had, we were like, okay, here's the $50. He said, no, this isn't right. When you start making money, pay me then.
Yeah.
And I respected that so much at a time where everyone or many people act very transactionally, just to get a quick buck. He had a long-term vision, which I respected. Mm-hmm. And so he's been with us as the chief of sales since the last 2 years. And, both of them, I couldn't have done it without them because they stayed on when it was so easy to leave.
Absolutely.
So many people came and went, but they've remained. And then obviously we have our CFO Keta, our head of data analytics Mir, and we've got 2 new directors of marketing, Manahil and Julia. So it's amazing.
That's awesome. And that's something that I don't think that you can really, I don't want to say that you can't teach, but that you can't give to someone. You can't give someone the vision of what this could be. Like you said, people are transactional. And if they don't believe in Coubon, like you believe in Coubon, it's going to be hard for them to stay in it and work and give as much energy and output without getting anything in return.
100%.
They expect the result, whereas someone who actually believes in it, which is the founder mentality, that's why you want to start something like this, is because you can see something that doesn't exist yet. And if you don't have that, once again, it's hard to really stick it out. But those 2 guys that you mentioned, absolutely shout out to them for having that same vision. And it's hard to get a team around you like that. So were those guys, were they friends first? How did you meet them?
So I had this policy, saying policy, but just an internal idea that I'm not going to hire friends who become my co-workers. I'm going to hire my co-workers who will become my friends.
Right.
And that's what I did. So Rick, he actually stayed with me in St. Hilda's, which is a Trinity college. So you can find your co-founder in your dorm.
Yeah.
So I found him there, and we started talking, and he organically joined. Ali was with me in Rotman. So we were friends in the sense that, you talk to everyone, but I wouldn't say that we were close friends that we'd go out regularly. But now, having worked for 2 years, I think the feeling, the ups and downs that we faced, it just makes us all bond closer. I just went to Cancun with Rick for a small getaway during reading week because, we have gone through that journey, which only us few people can talk about and know how it felt like.
Absolutely. Okay. I got 2 questions. First one, when did this app or company, when did this startup begin? When did you guys start?
Okay. What do you mean by start?
I guess, well, you said that you got your first restaurant in February 2023. Is that right?
Yes, but we didn't launch. So we initially, before launching the app, we had to have a few restaurants on our platform, right? Yeah. So we were essentially going to restaurants and in rain, snow, hail, and telling them, look, we're going to make this discount app for students. We have nothing to show you. Here are a few pictures on a piece of paper. This is how it's going to look on board. Now, you can imagine that it probably wasn't, as successful, but we got a few, small restaurants partnered with us.
How many said yes? How many, like what percentage? Because it's like door-to-door sales.
Oh yeah, door to door.
You know what I mean?
I wouldn't even say it would be 1% because we had to go to so many at the point. But we got a few restaurants onboarded. We got a very simplistic app out there for those people who have uploaded their app on the App or Play Store. They know that the first time you do it, it's a nightmare because the Apple keeps rejecting it. There's this issue or that issue. And I remember still once me and my technical co-founder knocks on my door. He said, it's not happening. We have tried 4 times. It's not happening. And we both have a mental breakdown. But, the next time, luckily, the 4th attempt was the charm and we got it up. In June of 2023, we needed some funding. So just quickly to rewind, from November of 2022, when we sort of got this idea, to June of 2023, we needed some money to sort of facilitate this. Now, all the internships that me or Rick at the time had done were unpaid, so we didn't have like our own reserves. And my parents offered, my family friends offered, but from the start, I wanted to do this on my own because I felt that our parents have already given us this platform, all of us collectively. And from here out, we should try at least to do it by ourselves so we aren't always relying sort of, on family or friends.
100%.
So, 2 of my friends, Daniel and Ethan, they said, fine, you don't rely on us. Let us give you a loan. In exchange of the loan, which you pay back to us in a year, we are going to get X%. Okay, which I thought fair. We made the contract, everything, and we got the loan. So,
and sorry, who are these guys? Daniel and Nathan?
These are 2 of my friends.
Okay.
So 2 of my good friends from Rotman. Daniel is in Poli-Sci, Ethan is in Rotman. Okay. Again, I knew them from the Trinity Circle. So, they gave a $3,000 loan, which we used to sort of incorporate the company, get the app on the App Store, all those things. Now we're sitting in June. We have $200 in our bank account. Secretly, I'm not telling my team because I don't want them to get stressed out, but secretly I'm palpitating. I've reached out to so many angel investors on LinkedIn. I have, nothing's happening. And my parents were like, come on, just take, whatever, $10,000. My friends were like, you're the biggest fool we know. Everyone takes money from their family or friends to start off with. It's called the friends, families, and fools round. So I said, it's fine. I'll find the fools who are crazy enough to trust me. So we were lucky enough to get 5 angel investors who invested in us, in our, friends, family, fools around, even though they weren't friends or family as such, but they've been great mentors to us throughout the way. And I'm very lucky that we got them on board at such an early point. One of them is the former group CFO of VFS, which is a full visa logistics company, which got acquired by Blackstone, and he's had a few other exits as well. Some other ones are who have their own chains of restaurants. Some have a huge blockchain technology IPs, and so.
And how do you connect with these people?
So I reached out to one family friend who I knew who was in business, and I told him, look, if you like my idea, can you connect me to more people? I don't have that network, but you do. So connect me to more people. And he connected us to more people. And then I remember doing a 4-hour presentation, question answer. My throat had gone by the end of it, but luckily we got the initial funding that we wanted at the time. That gave us the push that we needed to launch our beta in September. So September of 2023. That was great. So we got, I think, 1,000 downloads. We were the top 100 apps in the Canadian App Store. Everything was going well. Come forward to December and January. Our downloads are falling down. It's come to, I think, 100. No transactions that are visible, and money is going. We're very stressed. It's very gloomy. Why is this happening? At the time, the way we worked was you'd go to a restaurant as a user, you'd show them the discount you wanted. The restaurant worker would put a 6-digit code in to verify it and give you the discount you could pay in cash or card at the restaurant.
Got it.
Now, the problem that was happening is many of the restaurants, the workers were part-time, so they weren't too vested in it. They couldn't care less. It's not like they're making more money.
Right.
And second, there was such a big rotation. We would go and teach the worker on Monday, but on Wednesday, there'd be someone else, right? So it was a losing battle to start off with. Very demotivating times. I think January of 2024 was the darkest time for me, at least. Our then CFO and CMO at the time thought that, perhaps, in their vision, the model didn't work and the business didn't work and decided to leave. So that was again a big blow because it was like my own core team members are leaving. What's going on? But Rick and Ali stayed on, and we iterated. We made an in-app purchase model where people could pay through the app and the money would come to us, and then we would send it to restaurants. That allowed better tracking of transactions, and that also gave us the freedom to add a subsidy to the discounts. Sort of in March when it's quite cold, we'll give a higher subsidy, so the net discount that the user gets is higher. And because of that, they're more likely to go in the cold and use the discount. So that seemed to work quite a lot. Our transactions were growing at 600% a month. So it was excellent. We partnered with major new brands, the Heenies, Second Cup Coffee, Boston Pizza, Burger Factory, as well as, smaller restaurants, but student favorites like Cora Pizza right behind Robards, some restaurants in Yorkville. So it was amazing. And so since then, we haven't looked back.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. Now, to get these bigger brands, the key was what? The key was showing them the results that you got for the smaller restaurants. Is that right?
So it was twofold. So one, we had to show them the results. So the fact that we gave a subsidy to discounts helped because that boosted up more sales initially. So March. And using that, we would go to a Tahini's or Second Cup and say, look, for X restaurant, we are able to get these many more transactions. We can do the same, if not more, for you. Right?
Got it, yeah.
And oftentimes it's also like I have this tendency of being very annoying to them, right? So like literally I would keep spam calling them and until I annoy them to join me on Coubon. Don't recommend it for all sales practices, but it's worked for me. So since then I've been banned from reaching out to restaurants directly and have to go through either Ali or someone else. But that was very lucky for us as well. So, and building that personal connection, I think we are in it for the long game. As I said, everyone today is very transactional. We wanted to build a long-term relationship. To give you a small example, today as we speak, there is a catering event that partnered club at UTM wants to do, around 400 people. So we contacted Boston Pizza, which is a partnered brand there, and said this is happening and we would like to give you this catering contact, right? So Boston Pizza benefited. We didn't actually make anything in that transaction because we aren't primarily a catering organization. But the reason we did that, and we have done the same for other restaurants over the past few months too, the reason we do that is because we want to show that we are vested in your success. Because I know that for Coubon, every day is not going to be the same. Some days we'll do well, some days we won't. But then the days we are bad, these restaurants will still stay with us because they know that, okay, we are in this for the long run. They helped us out when we needed it, so we are going to help them out now. Which is why we have had zero churn. No restaurant that we partnered in Jan or Feb has left our platform today.
Wow. So that's huge. That's incredible. Now, I want to get into a little bit more your mind as an entrepreneur. You said how in January that was the low point. December, January, you were like, this is maybe the darkest moment of the business. What do you tell yourself in those times to keep pushing through? Is it, I just believe that students really want discounts? Is it, I need to make the most of my time here as an international student, what makes you say I'm not going to give up just yet? Is it the fact that you've already put so much money into it, you're trying to get something out of it? Like what is it?
No, so it's not even as much personal as it is a sense of responsibility towards your team, which also makes it all the more stressful. In December, January, I was not stressed or upset solely based on the fact that my business didn't work, my vision didn't work. Mm-hmm. I was more upset by the fact that I felt a sense of failing towards my team, who, the 10 people we had then or the 15 people we have now believe in my vision, which is why they're part of Coubon, right? Yeah. They can be doing anything with their time, but the fact that they're doing it for Coubon, they believe in my vision. So I have a sense of responsibility that to make them better off than they came in. At the same time, the investors, whether it's $1, $10, $1 million, they invested in us because they believed in our ability to execute. Yeah. And if we aren't executing, that's an issue. So all of those things sort of put weight on your mind, on your heart, and which obviously makes it all the more stressful. At the time, I have some other friends who, would do part-time jobs and are making more money. And then I'm like, we are working so hard, all of us, and, we aren't making anything. And then these people, they're working part-time jobs and fractional of the work that we are doing and yet getting, more recognition and in all those things. But then I tell myself that this is for the long run, whether it is Coubon, whether it is some other venture in the future. I know I want to do entrepreneurship. I know I want to provide value to society.
Absolutely.
And sure, part-time work can give me $1,000 today, but I care more about the $1 million or $10 million in the future, which I know that, somehow or the other, it will come to be. So that's kind of the conviction, the foolishness you have to kind of go through, I feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you got to be a little bit crazy. Entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur is a little bit crazy. But here's what I've heard in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of starting a business, startups, all this kind of thing, is that it's like playing a video game where you get to a certain level, but if you die at that level, which is basically if your business fails, you can come back and you already know how to beat all the levels you just went through. So you're right now at whatever stage you're at with Coubon. You've learned, I would think, a lot of different lessons
100%.
From this experience. Now, once again, obviously, we're hoping that Coubon works out, that this is your main gig. But like you said as well, if it's not Coubon, it could be a different venture. If the day comes where you decide to go a different path on a new venture, you already have all the built-in lessons from your experience with Coubon. Your whole team has the lessons that they've learned starting this thing with Coubon. If you wanted to do a new thing, you can fast track what now took you however many months, a year and a half, how long it's been, to you can speed through that part because you know how to get it all done. You know how to now convince the restaurants. You know how many doors you have to knock on, this kind of thing. And I think that's extremely valuable. What do your parents at home think about you starting this business?
So when I was thinking of starting it and when I incorporated it, this is December 29th, 2022. So when I was thinking of incorporating it, my parents were like, what are you doing? You're there to study, come on, like the normal parents fear, right?
Yeah.
But I'd made up my mind. I was like, I'm going to do it. I put my head in like an astronaut suit that I can't hear anything. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Now seeing my journey, they say what you just said, right? So many times, I talk to them and I'm stressed out, but they would say, look, whatever happens, the journey you have done, it can't be, it can't be forgotten. It can't be ignored because everything isn't short term. You have to look long term. I remember my dad saying this once to me in the January time when Coubon wasn't doing well at all. I said, I should have just done a part-time job or something. He said, I haven't sent you and paying the international student fees for you to just look at the short term and just look at, the $1,000 you're getting. You have to look at long term. You have to look at something which you can scale. And that really stood with me and resonated with me. And that's something I still carry now. So, hopefully Coubon works. If it doesn't work, I believe in whatever God's plan is for me, and
Yeah.
just, keep going ahead.
Absolutely. So there's the camera. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break.
Sure, yeah.
Halfway through, and we'll jump back into it. Back after a short break. Let me untangle this mic. It's an absolute mess. Okay. Something that I just remembered as we were pausing was seeing, I don't know if it was you, but it was definitely Coubon. It was definitely your app. I was in a Rotman class for art science students. So there's like 4 courses that art science students can take that are business. And it was
MGT 100?
it was MGT
250?
I think it was Dan Richards maybe.
Oh, yes.
And I remember he gave you guys a few minutes at the start.
That was me.
That was you?
That was me.
Okay, this was last year.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And you guys were pitching your app, and you're like, guys, we have this app, you can download it. And I was like, okay, these guys, this is other student entrepreneurs. It's awesome. And now we're meeting each other. So welcome.
So that's crazy. Last year, we did a lot of guerrilla marketing. So I actually even went on the TTC and started promoting, download the Coubon app there.
Yeah.
That reel went viral. So, that was crazy. And people were like, okay, this guy is certified craziness. First we thought he was crazy,
Yeah.
he's, doing entrepreneurship, but now he's certified crazy.
Absolutely.
So I have good relationships with many of our profs, Professor Michael Khan for RSM or MGT 100,
Yep.
Professor Ria Cadepano for MGT or RSM 250,
Yep.
and Professor Dan Richards as well, amongst others. So they've been very gracious in, allowing us that platform to market to, all the students out there.
That's huge. And what do you do? Because Michael Kahn, I'm not saying this just because you're a Robin student here. I've said this on other podcasts. My favorite professor. Yeah. I had him for MGT 100, and he seems very polarizing. He seems like a lot of students complain about his teaching style. I personally think he teaches in a way that, you should take his example for, like, students will complain, oh, he sells his own book. And I'm like, you're taking a course on business. He's making money. What do you mean? Yeah. He's showing you the way. So I think he's awesome. I think he's got a good personality, but he talks a lot about networking.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing in Rotman, not just him. I'm sure many Rotman professors push networking. How important has that been? Because you just said you connected with these 3 professors. I'm sure you have other ways of doing it because you have to be different. We talked about earlier the Venn diagram being unique. When the Rotman professors come out and teach thousands of students the best way to network, it no longer becomes the best way to network because everyone's doing the same thing. Whereas 100%. You have to find a way to kind of, branch out. How have you found networking to be?
I think the key to networking, in my opinion, is to be yourself. Don't try to network. That's what I would say. So to give you an example of how me and Professor Michael Khan networked, so to say, I noticed one day he came to class, he had a bad back, and my mom also suffers from a bad back from time to time, so I know how painful it can be. After the class ended, I just offered, sir, do you want me to pick up your bag and take it to, your office? And he appreciated it a lot. And since then, we talked more, and after that, I'm with him on WhatsApp. And so I think being yourself, when I took his bag, I wasn't going with the intent that, oh, let me network with him, right? There are thousands of different ways to do that. I did that because I could see, the pain he was in. Yeah. For Professor Ria Cadepano, I think I'm very participative in classes, and I tend to do well, touch wood, on the courses as well. So in general, professors seem to like me as well. Yeah. And just being respectful, I think they can see who's genuine, who's not being genuine. So absolutely. That's in terms of professors, and that's something you can take forward for anyone else, from restaurants, like corporate partners, investors, anything else.
100%, absolutely. And I think the key to that, which I think it could be a good conversation to end on, we won't talk about it right now, but is spirituality, as we were talking about, as mentioned off camera. And I just don't believe that I can get away with anything, because there's someone up there who knows my intentions. Yeah. So you're not hiding anything. This is why I have trouble lying, because if I'm lying for genuine malicious intent, I don't even think can you even lie for good intention? This is a good question. This is straying away from business. We're getting into philosophy here. But do you think you can lie with good intention?
I think you can exaggerate certain things with good intentions. This is coming from a marketing lens. And like you go to a restaurant, and I'm guilty of doing this in our early days as well, when we may not have had as many users, and it's a herd mentality for restaurants. I'll join if either 10 more restaurants are on there or we have users on there. So I remember in the early days when I'd go to a restaurant, I would say that, oh yeah, we have, I would make up a number. We have 1,000 users on our app. Then when we came to 1,000, we have 2,000. Now when we are at 3,000, or we have 5,000. But that's not there to harm them. We don't charge them a listing fee. So it's not like we are scamming them into coming to a platform and charging them. We don't do that. We take a commission based on the transactions we generate for them, right? So we only make money from what we make them the extra money. So in that sense, it's not malicious. And in that sense, it's, sort of marketing and business. So I don't see anything wrong in that. But talking about lying in general, I just like perhaps lying to, I don't know, to actually, defraud someone, or to come across as more pious than you are. I think that's, that's not going to take you far in life. But
100%. What this is making me think of, I can't remember the exact example, but there was a controversy where it was a pain reliever. I don't know what company this happened with. This was years ago. There was a pain reliever that they were selling to kind of heal or help with a specific part of the body. So maybe let's just say shoulder pain. I don't remember what it was. Let's just say they were marketing this, I think it was like a pill, as shoulder pain reliever. And they were selling it at a higher price, whereas they had a standard pain reliever, not for your shoulder, just like for general pain, for general soreness. And they were selling that at a lower price. The problem is that it was the exact same pill. They were just marketing the one as this is for your shoulder. So people who had shoulder pain would buy that at the higher price. Now, where it gets really complicated is that the placebo effect that it played on the people with shoulder pain actually helped the shoulder more than someone who just bought the standard pain reliever. So in that case, it's like, okay, you're using the placebo effect, but the placebo effect is actually helping their shoulder more than the standard pain reliever did. Is that a scam? I think they weren't allowed to do it anymore, which I understand exactly why. But as you're giving the marketing example, I saw on your form, there was other similar examples to that, where you'd go into restaurants maybe and you'd pretend like you knew the owner, you'd go there's an example with TMU where you weren't actually a sponsor, but you'd set up a booth there. Can you tell those stories?
Okay, cool. So this is very recent as well. So August and September.
Okay.
We tried to reach out to TMU, and this is also the same for some UFT, orientation events, right? We tried reaching out to them. Can we have a stall? No response. Now that's sad. When life gives you lemons, you have to make lemonade. So we're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's go. We'll set up a booth there. We did. We bought our own table, right? We found out what color the tables would be there. We went to IKEA, bought a table. We put it there. When person A comes, we're with person B. When person B comes, we're with person A. Yeah. No one does anything. No harm done. We get a lot of downloads there. Works out for us. Once or twice, so many times you go to restaurants, the owner is in there. The worker would never give the owner's number or let you talk to them, saying, come next time. You'd go there 2-3 times, still doesn't happen. So then I was like, okay, let's try a new game. I go there and I say, yes, that person told me to come here. I came all the way from North York. I mean, this is very unprofessional. And I seem perturbed. So then they also are like, okay, probably, he's right. He's saying it with that confidence. They'll call up the owner and I say, can I talk to him? I don't think he'll remember me. So I talk to him and then I just pitch him the idea. And that's, I think, how we got Tahinis onboarded as well. So
that's huge.
It works.
That's the kind of thing that you have to do. Like, this is a thing that I've been kind of toying with in my head, is I have like a bunch of VoV podcast flyers that I want to put all over campus for just the new incoming students who haven't heard of the podcast. I want to basically go around campus, pin up flyers. Pretty innocent, what I would say. But there are designated spots or land posts where you have to put flyers. Like you can't just put it on a random street. Like there's like rules, because then they'll take
I
it
went
down.
and I put Coubon flyers in every bathroom.
Exactly.
And nothing's going to happen. By the time they'll remove it, I'll get 100 downloads.
That's
So
the
it
thing.
works
That's
out.
the thing. And but the problem I'm having is that I understand why the rules are there. You don't want the city to look ugly. You don't want, entrepreneurs or startups or all these companies to be, branding your city, because it just looks ugly to have flyers like that everywhere. So as the podcast host, I think I'll still break the rules and put the flyers everywhere. But I would like for the people who are in charge of the city to take them down. I understand why they would do it. If I was in their position, I'd be taking them down too. Their job is to keep the city clean, and I want a clean city. But I'm just in a position where I have this thing, and I want to promote it in the most effective way possible. And it's not a negative thing. It's going to be a net positive, I believe, for students to be at least aware that there is a podcast where if a startup founder wants to come on who's a first year who wants to talk about this or that or whatever, like it's not even about having a business to promote. These are just a community for people to come and talk and share their opinions on stuff. So it's it's interesting. But marketing is definitely something that you have to not be a bad person, because it's very dangerous, because marketing is essentially not stretching the truth, but basically stretching it to a point where you have to convince people that you have something of value to provide. Someone might get huge value from Coubon. A restaurant might be like, this is going to be huge for us, or they might not know it. That's the difference. That's the problem. A restaurant would get huge value. You know your product better than I do. You might know that a restaurant would get huge value from this Coubon app, but they just might not be convinced. They might just think you're a little bit sus, or that you're a student. This isn't that serious, but you need to just basically trick them into being, no, I understand the hurdles in your mind, but trust us, and it's going to help you. So
and the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in its eating. The fact that none of our restaurants have left us since January. I mean, the fact that now new restaurants are coming to us and telling us that we'd like to be on your platform. The Heenies, in fact, they signed up one of their restaurants with us in April. Since then, they've signed up 2 more.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's just to show their vote of confidence in our ability to deliver. And so I think a little bit of harmful or harmless marketing isn't, an issue. It's not like I'm selling drugs or I'm selling anything bad. I'm selling something which helps students save money, and it helps restaurants bringing new traffic. So
100%. That's the key thing. What do you think about some of these businesses? This is where we're going to get a little bit spiritual.
Yeah.
What do you think about some of these businesses that are legal but probably cause a net harm to the consumer or to society? So my example that I use on here, not to make you uncomfortable, but my example is porn. The porn industry, completely legal. We live in a free country. Absolutely. You want to make porn, you want to buy porn, go for it. But I don't think there's any debate that it does cause serious problems, especially with young men.
100%.
So in that sense, what do you think about these types of businesses?
Well,
could you start a business that you yourself didn't think was good for the world, even though it's legal, even though it could be profitable?
Well, I personally wouldn't, right? Because I agree with you that, it's not good for the world. But then who is it to decide what's good, what's bad? I think, I'm a Hindu, right? And in the traditions that we have in India, we believe that Hinduism is a way of life rather than, a set religious doctrine. So we believe that you can't really control things that are happening around you. You can control what you're doing. I don't agree with it, so I'm not going to watch it, right? The temptations are always going to be there. The fact is that in country, and you can take an example of, Dubai, where porn is illegal, right? In the sense that it's all blocked.
Yeah.
Do you think it's not consumed?
Right.
It's, consumed to a much higher degree, perhaps, than in other countries as well. So it's a lot about your own self-control, right? you can't drink legally if under the age of 19, right? You
Right.
think people don't, right?
Obviously, yeah.
Everyone does so, but that's something you have to, no matter if it wouldn't be porn, it would be drugs. If it's not going to be drugs, it's going to be something else. For humanity, there are always going to be temptations, but
Yeah.
one needs to find, okay, where do I lie in this, and what am I going to do? That's what we can control.
100%. Now, do you put the blame, maybe you don't put any blame, but this is the way I think of it. Do you put blame on the consumer or the producer? So let me give you a quick story. You talk about how hard it was to get Coubon on the App Store. There's so many trials and errors you have to go through. Not last year, my second year, so 2 years ago, I wanted to start an app with my friends as well. Didn't end up doing it. We couldn't push through like you guys did because that was very hard. So, but our app was a dating app. We wanted to make a dating app that was university specific. So it basically dealt with the problem that Tinder might not be so safe. You're meeting a stranger at a place that, you know, it could, especially for women, it could be a little bit dangerous because you hear those stories of when it goes wrong. But we thought, okay, let's make this a lot safer. Let's make a dating app for UFT specifically. You have to sign up with perhaps like a University of Toronto ID to prove that you're a student. And then you could expand that. You could go to Harvard, you could go to MIT, you could go to Queens, so that people can safely date, and you know that, okay, this person goes to my school. They're not that they can't be a creep, but there's less of a chance that they're going to be a creep if they're a student at U of T or at Queens, that, you know, they're in the same community. But the issue that at least I had was that I don't believe in dating apps. So I had a bit of an issue working on something that I think could work. If someone were to go and build that, I think it could be profitable. It could help the world even. But I personally would never use a dating app. So how could I start a business that uses a dating app, or that encourages people or provides a platform for people to use dating apps? Vaping. I don't think vaping should be illegal, but I don't think I could ever sell vapes. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Personally, for me, I would say that two things. So firstly, I completely agree with you. You cannot build something which you don't personally are fully convinced with. It could be in terms of either the viability of the idea or the ethics around the idea. A startup is like a child. You know, you can't have the same feeling if you are not wholly vested in it.
Right.
Talking about who's to blame, I think the consumer is to blame, because you not having started the dating app doesn't mean someone else isn't. In fact, last year, I think there was another startup, I think called Down 2 or something. It came, but then it didn't seem to work out. So I think they exited. But many people will try it. Someone may even be successful in that. So Hinge. I mean, the amount of university students who are on Hinge, right? It's uncanny. So I don't think you can control, as a producer, you not doing it or doing it is going to make an impact. I think as a consumer, the onus is on us to make the choice of what we're going to do. These products would not exist if we would not be using it. 100%. Vapes would not exist if there weren't thousands of people going into the market. That's basic, market sense.
Demand,
supply and demand. We have, a vape store on the Coubon app, right? Now, there are questions, should you have it? Should you not have it? But I think no one is going to go and use and start smoking a vape on the Coubon app if they don't normally smoke, right? Mm-hmm. You're only going to go there if you anyway smoke. Yeah. So if that's the thing, then from a business standpoint, if you're anyways going to smoke, use our app and smoke, right?
Yeah.
Make us a few dollars at it, right? Because your decision isn't going to change either way, right? But if it's something that, can target a lot of younger people, influence them and make them start using it, then that's a separate debate. Then that's unethical. You have to protect them because they're very influential, influenceable.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that it comes back to that, I guess, comparison I was saying of like putting the Flyers versus the city manager who has to take them down. Is like, you have to understand what your role is in society. If you're the entrepreneur, if you're the businessman, I mean, if you want to sell vapes, like that's your incentive. You're the entrepreneur. You want to make money. Absolutely understand. If you're I think that the job perhaps is on the lawmaker. If there has to be something that's controlled, I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying make vapes illegal.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's a reason that certain products are protected from, especially young people. You can't buy a vape below a certain age.
Yeah.
I think there's age restrictions on vapes, right?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's 19 plus. At least on our app, you have to be 19
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
to use it.
There you go.
But even weed, for
Yeah.
instance, right? Cannabis. I mean, coming to Toronto, there are more cannabis stores here than coffee shops,
Yeah.
you know, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy, to the point that even if you don't want to do it, you'll see it so many times that, you know, at some point you'll say, you know, screw it. Let me check it out. But that's bad. When you're putting it so much on your face, you know, everywhere you go, the human mind will get influenced. But just having it in general, I don't think would pose that much of an issue, personally.
100%. And is that, for you, you mentioned Hinduism, is that guided by your belief? You said it's not a strict religion. You said it's a way of life. Maybe
Yes.
kind of explain that.
So,
I'm just going to check these cameras. You keep talking.
sure. Hinduism is a lot about the daily practices you do, and it's a wide spectrum. So, unlike, say, Christianity or Islam, we aren't governed by one book or, you know, one God.
Yeah.
We have hundreds of gods, right? And everyone will follow another god, will sort of have different rituals. But the underlying current that we have is about karma. So not many people know this, but Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism all came out of Hinduism, right?
Got it.
And so this idea of karma that people in the West may know through, you know, Buddhism has, you know, originated and is an integral part of Hinduism. The belief that if you do good, you get good. The belief that you only have control over your actions, not on the results. But apart from these few underlying principles, it's a very wide spectrum. You'll have people who eat beef, people who don't eat beef, people who eat non-vegetarian food, so meat, people who don't eat that, people who drink, people who don't drink. So there's no set, you know, rules that this is right, this is wrong, which, you know, talks back to the point what you're talking about, right? What is right, what is wrong? No one is to decide, right?
Yeah.
We are only here to govern our own actions. That's what we can control, not
Awesome.
anything else.
That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. I think this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any final words to share with the audience and maybe plug some stuff?
Perfect. So just one simple thing. It's quite a common sense question. Would you, as a customer, want to save up to 50% off on restaurants that you would anyways go to? If yes, download the Coubon app. If you're a restaurant and you know that you have times when, you know, you aren't getting as many sales, and you don't mind, you know, giving $1 on the $20 that you make through us, reach out to us on Coubon. And finally, if you're a budding entrepreneur anywhere, the ideas are a dime a dozen. It's not as much about getting the right idea. The idea will iterate throughout the process. This point is to start, make a start, and let the journey unfold. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Tejas Trikha. I appreciate you coming on once again. One last question, actually, I did have.
Okay.
Sorry. You made those connections with those professors, and they've helped you kind of get the word out. Overall, U of T's role in entrepreneurship, in helping startups, what is your thought on that? Has it been helpful? Has it been subpar?
I think certain professors have been very helpful. I feel UFT as an institution, unfortunately, hasn't been as helpful as we had hoped. I think UFT and even Rotman Commerce put so much time and energy into promoting, yes, you know, go work for KPMG, go work for BCG, that they don't value entrepreneurship as much. They don't push it as much. Everyone, in every course you do, they'll talk about be a job creator, don't be a job seeker, follow the untrodden path, don't do it. But that's all I feel high talk. But UFT needs to do more in terms of active actions to help entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And I don't know whether you faced a similar, roadblocks along the way. I can see that perhaps you have. So you know the pain that, one feels. But I think we can make that progress. I think that's what's stopping us from being sort of as good as our American counterparts in a Harvard or Stanford is this. We don't have a dearth of talent. I think some of the major best minds of Canada and the world come from UFT, but it's just harnessing them in a correct way.
100%. And also, this is another thing. Sorry, we're doing like a whole second part of the podcast. But despite U of T pushing, like you said, this KPMG route that, go down the well-known path, a lot of young people want to become entrepreneurs. And what do you think about that distinction between someone like you who's had the idea, who's put it into action, who's done the work, versus someone who's been talking about entrepreneurship for, it seems like, years, but is still not doing anything, is still distracted, and is still scrolling reels more than they're actually kind of putting their dreams into action?
I think a lot of people, and this may be a bit controversial, a lot of people may not want to put in that work with the fear that if I put in 2 years of my work, take Coubon for instance, I've put 2 years of my blood and sweat and all the hard work into Coubon, right? I don't know if it's going to succeed or not. 1% if it doesn't succeed. Apart from obviously all the experience and the journey I've had in terms of market value, in terms of monetary value, what do I have in my hands? Nothing. But a person who follows the traditional path, I'm going to work, I'm going to be in the Rotman Society of Entrepreneurship, then get an internship somewhere, and I'm going to work hard there. You're guaranteed a job, more or less. You're guaranteed that pay. People fear putting in that work and not getting a return. That's what I think is the reason. But to them, I just tell them, look, this is the best time to do it, right? Everyone says, I'll work till I'm 40, get the money, get the experience, then start something, which is completely fair, which is, I think, many people do it. But why not try something now as well? You're sitting in university, right? You don't have a mortgage to pay. You don't have a family to look after to the same extent that you would when you're 40. This is a good time to try. If it doesn't work out, fine, go with the original plan. If it works out, good for you. So
100%.
Why not?
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tejas. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. That is VoV Podcast. Like the episode. It was great. Download the Coubon app. This guy is already, I can tell. Once again, I haven't seen you work, but just from the way you're speaking to me, I can tell this guy's got a strong work ethic. This thing is going to help you get discounts on some of the best food places. Boston Pizza is a pretty awesome
Up
one,
to
by the way.
50% off as well. So, why not?
That's incredible. So everybody, once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will see you next Sunday. You can follow us on Instagram @Voices of Vic. And that's all. Awesome. Peace out.